On the morning of my 70th birthday, I woke up in my tiny apartment on the south side of Chicago, the alarm clock on the nightstand buzzing softly at 6:30, just like it had every day for the past 15 years, the sound muffled slightly by the stack of unpaid utility notices I used as a coaster, the envelopes yellowing with age, the ink fading on the warnings. The radiator in the corner clanked and hissed, pushing out waves of dry heat that battled the draft seeping through the old window frames, sealed with yellow duct tape from winters past, the tape curling at the edges like forgotten promises, peeling away in strips when I tugged too hard to let in a breeze in summer. Sunlight filtered through the thin lace curtains I had sewn myself, from remnant fabric at a craft store on sale for $2 a yard, the stitches uneven in places from my tired eyes, the thread matching imperfectly, casting delicate patterns across the faded floral wallpaper that had started to peel in the corners where moisture from the bathroom leaked through the grout. I never had money to fix the mold spots I scrubbed with bleach weekly. I lay there for a moment, staring at the ceiling crack that ran like a lazy river from the light fixture to the wall, remembering how Leroy used to joke that it was our apartment map to hidden treasure, pointing out imaginary islands and rivers with his grease-stained finger after a long day at the auto shop, tracing paths to buried gold that was really just the loose change in his pocket, clinking as he emptied them on the dresser. The place was small, one bedroom with a closet barely big enough for my seasonal clothes, folded neatly in plastic bins labeled in my handwriting with dates, a narrow kitchen where the cabinets stuck if the humidity rose from the shared hallway, steaming up from the laundry room below the machines rumbling at night, and a living room that fit my worn armchair with the frayed armrests, patched with duct tape and silver, a small coffee table scarred from hot mugs and hot tears spilled in silence, the television that mostly stayed off because the cable bill was a luxury I skipped in favor of library books, borrowed 2 at a time with fines if late, and public radio crackling on the old transistor with the bent antenna. But it was mine, paid for with the savings I had scraped together month by month, penny by penny, nickel by dime, after signing over the family home in Hyde Park to Marcus, the house Leroy and I had bought with our first big paychecks, the one with the oak tree in the front yard where Marcus learned to ride his bike, falling and scraping his knees, me running out with Band-Aids from the bathroom cabinet and kisses on the forehead, the roots now probably cracking the sidewalk, the porch where we sat on summer evenings with lemonade from concentrate, watching fireflies dance in the dusk, the swing creaking. I swung my legs over the side of the bed, my feet touching the cool linoleum floor that I mopped every Saturday with pine cleaner, bought in bulk at the warehouse store, the scent lingering like a ritual, reminding me of the pine trees we planted in the backyard of that old house, 3 of them, before Marcus sold them for a modern deck with built-in grill and LED lights that changed colors for parties. My knees creaked, a reminder of the arthritis that had settled in years ago, starting in my hands from endless drafting with pencils and rulers, erasing lines until perfect, and now spreading to my hips and back, but I ignored it, shuffling to the bathroom in my faded nightgown, washed so many times the flowers had blurred to pastels to splash cold water on my face, the pipes groaning in protest, water pressure low from the building's old plumbing, the hot water heater temperamental. In the mirror, my reflection stared back, silver hair pulled into a neat bun with bobby pins I reused from a tin collected over years, wrinkles etching stories around my eyes and mouth like the elevation lines on my old blueprints, deep from squinting at plans in dim light, lips that had smiled through too many disappointments, too many, I understand, and it is okay, too many nights biting back words that would have shattered the fragile peace. 70 years, I whispered to the glass, fogging it slightly with my breath, the droplets running down like tears I refused to shed anymore, tracing paths on the surface. It felt like a milestone, heavy and round, like the stones Leroy and I collected on our honeymoon at Lake Superior, skipping them across the water, laughing when they sunk after just 2 bounces, picking up more to try again, our pockets full by the end, heavy with wet rocks. I had spent the night baking my famous apple pie, the one my late husband Leroy had loved from the first bite, declaring it better than any restaurant dessert, the recipe passed down from his mother in Mississippi, who baked it for church potlucks and family reunions, wrapping it in foil to keep warm on the long drive. The paper yellowed with notes in her handwriting, smudged from flour. I had woken at 4, the apartment still dark, the streetlight outside casting orange glow through the blinds, rolled out the dough on my small counter, the flour dusting the air like snow, sifted from my old metal canister with the dent from when Marcus dropped it as a child, apologizing with hugs mixed in. The apples,
peeled by hand with a paring knife dull from years, sharpened on the bottom of a mug, their tartness making my mouth water. Granny Smith, from the discount bin at the corner store, bruised but usable. Added cinnamon from a spice jar half empty, refilled from bulk bins at the co-op, nutmeg grated fresh on the microplane I splurged on 5 years ago, a touch of brown sugar and a secret dash of vanilla that Leroy swore was the magic extracted from a bottle I nursed for special occasions, hiding it behind the flour like treasure. The oven preheated with a click, the pilot light flickering blue. The scent of cinnamon, baked apples, and buttery crust had filled the apartment all night, wrapping around me like an old quilt, comforting in its familiarity, evoking memories of Thanksgivings when the house was full of laughter, cousins piled on the couch arguing over board games, Monopoly money flying. The table groaned on platters of turkey and greens, cornbread and collards, sweet potato casserole, Leroy carving with pride, his apron stained from gravy, Marcus as a boy sneaking extra slices, hiding them under the table, giggling when caught, crumbs on his shirt. Standing at the sink now, washing the mixing bowl, the wooden spoon with the crack from overuse and the paring knife. My hands moved slower, the arthritis making my fingers stiff and swollen, knuckles red from the cold water, but steady enough for this annual ritual. The water running hot, then cold, the faucet leaking a drip I fixed with a twist of the handle, wrapping a rubber band sometimes.
I thought about my life before all the giving, how I had been a lead architect at Harlan and Associates in downtown Chicago, designing skyscrapers that touched the clouds, buildings that still stood tall along the lakefront, the Willis Tower extension with its innovative windbreaks that I tested in models until the numbers satisfied every gust, the boutique hotel on Michigan Avenue with atrium gardens hanging like green waterfalls, vines trailing down to a fountain. Colleagues used to call me the poet of steel and glass, praising my ability to blend form and function to make structures that felt alive, breathing with the city light, shifting through facades at different hours. I had awards on a shelf somewhere, dusty now in a box under the bed, plaques and certificates from associations, presentations in New York and London where I shook hands with mayors in grand halls under chandeliers. Dreams of my own firm one day with my name on the door, Evelyn Reed Architects, bold letters in brass. But when Leroy died suddenly at 55, a heart attack right there in the garage while fixing the old Ford, his hands still greasy from the engine, wrench slipping as he clutched his chest, collapsing beside the toolbox, tools scattering, leaving Marcus at 18 and me alone with a half-finished degree, a mortgage 2 payments behind, and a mountain of grief that crushed me for months. I could not get out of bed, the curtains drawn, food untouched. I quit it all to raise him. No choice, really, the firm understanding but distant. No more late nights at the drawing board, poring over blueprints under the green banker lamp, humming fluorescent. No more promotions or travel to construction sites in Dubai or Tokyo, where I could have seen the world, tasted street food in markets, haggled for spices. Just me and my boy, pouring every dream, every ounce of energy, every skipped meal, every sleepless night rocking him through nightmares of losing his dad into him. I took on freelance work from home, small residential projects that paid the bills, drafting additions and renovations on my kitchen table with a lamp clipped on the edge while I helped Marcus with his homework, sat through parent-teacher conferences in plastic chairs with other parents, drove him to basketball practice at the YMCA in the rattling station wagon with the dented fender from a minor bump, tutored him through algebra with patience I did not know I had, drawing graphs on scrap paper with colored pencils, and later to community college when he decided business was his path, ditching engineering despite my gentle nudges about following in my footsteps, showing him my old sketches of bridges. He had big ideas even then, sketching logos on napkins during dinner, folded into planes, launching them across the table, talking about starting his own firm one day, revolutionizing urban design with eco-friendly towers, solar-integrated wind turbines, subtle. I believed in him so deeply that when he graduated, I used Leroy life insurance money, my retirement fund, and even sold my mother wedding ring, the one with the tiny diamond that caught the light in the sun, to seed his company, Reed Designs. I signed the papers in a stuffy lawyer office, the pen heavy, the air conditioner humming loudly, making him the owner so he could build his future without the burden of debt or partners, without looking back at the cost to me, the ring pawned for less than it was worth. My apartment became my world, too cramped, they said years later when I offered to host family gatherings or Sunday dinners. The table here only seats 4, Vanessa would say with a laugh over the phone, her voice echoing in their large kitchen. Marcus had called the day before, his voice tight with that familiar urgency, cracking over the line from the company speakerphone, background noise of printers whirring and phones ringing endlessly. "Mom, the company van broke down again, transmission this time, grinding like gravel under tires, and we have a big client meeting tomorrow with the city for that new condo tower on the riverfront, the one that could put us on the map, triple our revenue, secure jobs. I need the cash to get it fixed or we lose the contract. Everything we worked for, the expansions, the team, the future growth." I did not hesitate, even though my pension check had just come in, direct deposit, and the fridge held only a half carton of milk, some wilted lettuce, a jar of peanut butter with the label peeling, crackers stale in the box. I transferred it all online from my ancient laptop, the one with the cracked screen and sticky keys, the fan whirring loudly, leaving myself with just enough for bus fare, a bag of oatmeal from the dollar store, generic brand, and a loaf of day-old bread from the discount bakery, the kind with the hard crust that hurt my teeth when toasted. That is what mothers do, I told myself as I stared at the near-empty fridge, the confirmation email staring back with the zero balance, the screen dimming to save power. It is an investment in his success, in the family legacy, in the grandchildren future college funds, weddings. I had done it so many times before, for office rent in the early days, when the company was just Marcus and 2 interns in a shared co-working space with bad coffee and folding chairs, for marketing campaigns to land bigger clients, billboards and website overhauls with animations and SEO, for the down payment on their house in Oak Park with its white picket fence, herringbone floors and gourmet kitchen with the island where they hosted brunches for influencers, sipping mimosas, taking selfies with ring lights. Vanessa, his wife, always assured me it would pay off soon, with that polished smile and air kisses over video calls, her background a sunlit room with fresh flowers. "You are family, Evelyn. We could not do this without you. Your support is the foundation, the rock we build on." But appreciation never came with invitations to their barbecues on the deck with the string lights, twinkling like stars, or holiday dinners at Thanksgiving, unless I brought the food, cooked it in their sub-zero oven with multiple racks, served it on their fine china with the gold rim, and cleaned up after, scrubbing pots with steel wool while they posted filtered photos on social media, Marcus's arm around Vanessa, the kids smiling in matching outfits from boutique stores, captions about blessed life, grateful for abundance, family first, and never a tag for grandma or even a mention, a photo of me cropped out or blurred in the background. I would see the pictures later, scrolling on my phone with cracked screen, liking them silently, from my armchair, the light from the screen on my face late at night. The lobby gleamed with marble floors imported from Italy, veined like rivers, gray and white modern art pieces Vanessa had chosen from galleries in New York, abstract sculptures that cost more than my annual rent, twisting metal that caught the light, shifting shadows on the walls. I arrived by train, the red line rattling me north from my neighborhood, the cars crowded with commuters, reading papers or staring at phones, earbuds in, white bags of groceries in my arms, heavy with ingredients for the appetizers I insisted on making, despite Vanessa's text saying caterers were handling it. But I knew homemade touched hearts, or used to, before everything changed. Deviled eggs with paprika, sprinkled just so from a shaker I refilled at home with bulk spice. Cucumber sandwiches with the crust cut off in perfect triangles using a ruler for straight edges, the bread soft, mini quiches with gruyere and spinach from scratch, the dough pressed into muffin tins with my thumbs, cheese grated by hand on the box grater. The elevator whisked me to the top floor, smooth and silent, the doors opening with a ding soft, where the executive suite had been transformed into a party space. String lights draped across the ceiling like stars twinkling on timers. Views of Lake Michigan sparkling under the afternoon sun, sailboats dotting the water like white confetti, ferries crossing to Navy Pier, tourists waving from decks. Vanessa greeted the guests on the threshold in a designer dress the color of champagne silk, flowing with every step, pearls at her throat, multiple strands, heels clicking on the marble, kissing my cheek quickly, her perfume sharp and expensive like citrus and money, lingering in the air, mixing with colognes. "Head to the kitchen, Mom," she said without looking at me fully, her eyes already on the next arrival,
a city council member in a pinstripe suit, shaking hands firmly. Finish the platters and keep the hot food warm. We do not want anything to go cold or the vibe to drop. The Instagram stories are live. The photographer is here, circling. I nodded and went. The kitchen all stainless steel appliances, sub-zero fridge with ice maker dispensing cubes, quartz countertops with veins of gold gleaming, a far cry from my chipped Formicut at home where the oven door squeaked and the burners were uneven, one always hotter, scorching pans. I sliced cheeses into uniform cubes with a knife sharper than mine, the blade gliding through cheddar, arranged fruits on tiered stands, strawberries glistening next to grapes and pineapple chunks, cut with care, juice dripping, warmed the quiches in the convection oven, the timer beeping softly, the smell mixing with the party scents of appetizers and wine, while laughter and clinking glasses echoed from the conference room turned party hall, the sound of crystal and success, deals being whispered in corners, handshakes. My name came up once when a younger employee, a fresh-faced designer named Mia, with a nose ring and colorful tattoos on her arms, asked where the birthday woman was, her voice curious above the hum of conversation and music from hidden speakers, soft jazz. Vanessa laughed lightly, waving a hand with manicured nails painted rose gold, rings flashing diamonds, saying, "Oh, she is our helper bee, buzzing in the kitchen, keeping everything perfect for us. It is what she does best, always has since the beginning, the unsung hero." Everyone chuckled, the sound light and dismissive like bubbles in champagne, popping and gone, fading into the noise of toasts. I brought out the trays on silver platters I had polished myself at home the night before with a cloth and paste, the metal gleaming without spots. Cleared the empties, stacking plates with efficiency born of years in cafeterias and potlucks and church basements, folding napkins, and stood in the corner near the floor-to-ceiling window, invisible amid the crowd of tailored suits and designer dresses, perfumes mingling, heavy. The city sprawled below, traffic crawling like ants on the Dan Ryan, horns honking in frustration, the lake a blue expanse, waves crashing against the breakwater, spray visible in the sun. An old colleague of mine from the architecture days, Mr. Harlan, now retired with a limp from a site accident in the 90s where he fell from scaffolding on a windy day, spotted me across the room. He was one of the few who remembered my work on the tower on Wabash, the one with the curved facade that caught the light just so, changing colors with the sun from gold to pink, reflecting clouds like mirrors. "Evelyn," he called, using my first name like in the old days, weaving through the crowd with a plate of hors d'oeuvres, shrimp on skewers dripping cocktail sauce. "Remember when you designed that beauty? It changed the skyline, won the AIA award, still talked about in classes, textbooks. Tell them about the wind tunnel tests, how you stayed up 3 nights with the models, recalculating loads, adjusting braces." I smiled, warmth spreading in my chest like hot tea on a cold day, ready to share the story of how Leroy had inspired the curves with his love of river bends in the Mississippi, how we tested scale models in a rented facility until dawn, coffee fueling us, laughter when a fan blew one over, scattering pieces like confetti. But Vanessa cut in smoothly, turning to the group with a bright smile, flipping her hair extensions, perfect layers. "Marcus and I are planning a trip to Napa Valley next month. The wineries there are exquisite, the spas divine, private tastings with sommeliers from France, helicopter tours over the vines, photo ops at sunset with charcuterie." The talk shifted instantly to vacations, private jets, investment portfolios, vineyard ownership, crypto and wine futures, NFTs of barrels, digital. My stories buried again under layers of their new life, their polished anecdotes delivered with gestures and laughs, champagne flutes raised, clinking. I retreated to the kitchen, washing dishes by hand even though there was a dishwasher, quiet cycle, the warm soapy water soothing my hands, the steam fogging my glasses, rising like memories of steam from Leroy's coffee in the morning, percolating. I dried each plate carefully with a towel, then from washes, stacking them thinking of the family dinners where Leroy would wash and I would dry, our rhythm perfect, his humming old blues tunes from the radio, Muddy Waters. Then came the moment for the pie, the climax I had built in my mind all week, a small beacon of hope in the planning, a thread to pull them back to center.
I had worked on it for hours back in my apartment. The crust, flaky and golden, rolled thin with the glass bottle because my rolling pin broke years ago and I never replaced it, mending with tape instead. The filling, tart and sweet with apples from the farmer's market under the L tracks, bought with coins counted in my palm, topped with a lattice that took patience to weave, each strip placed with care using a fork to crimp the edges, pressing patterns like braids. And a single candle shaped like 70, flickering gently in the draft from the vents, the flame dancing blue and yellow, steady. I carried it out on the silver tray Leroy and I got for our 25th anniversary, the one engraved with our initials in curling script, a wedding gift from his parents who drove up from Mississippi with it, wrapped in newspaper and ribbon, faded now. My heart lifted with the final desperate hope. This homemade gift, this piece of our history, this labor of love poured into every peel and stir, every measurement precise, would bridge the gap, would remind them of roots, of the woman who built their foundation from nothing, with calloused hands and late nights. I placed it in the center of the long mahogany table, imported from some sustainable forest, polished to shine amid the store-bought desserts, towering cakes with fondant roses, intricate macarons and pastel shades, chocolate truffles dusted with gold leaf, cocoa. Guests leaned in, some sniffing appreciatively, a few murmuring about the smelled home, childhood kitchens, grandma hands. Vanessa stared for a second, her manicured nails tapping the tablecloth like rain on a roof, impatient rhythm fast. "Why bring that old thing?" she said, her voice carrying across the room, sharp as a blueprint edge, cutting through the chatter like a knife through paper. "We ordered a professional cake from the best bakery in the city, layered with fondant and edible gold flakes, imported chocolate from Belgium, velvety. No one wants homemade rustic nonsense. It looks like it came from a Depression-era cookbook or a food bank handout, charity." The room hushed, conversations dying mid-sentence, forks pausing mid-air, appetites lost. Mr. Harlan tried to help, clearing his throat awkwardly, adjusting his tie, loosening the knot. "That pie is tradition, Evelyn. It is the taste of real family, of holidays and love, of Leroy, who would have loved this. Cut the first slice with ceremony. I will take a big slice, maybe two. Pass the forks. Let us sing happy birthday properly. Off-key, but heartfelt." Vanessa's face twisted, the polite mask slipping, revealing something colder underneath, eyes narrowing, lips thinning to a line. "Tradition is outdated," she snapped, her voice rising an octave, piercing the silence. "It belongs in the past, with flip phones and dial-up internet and women who stayed home baking instead of building empires, closing deals, flying first class, living large, influencing." She snatched the tray from the table, her grip tight, knuckles white, nails digging into the metal, and in one swift practice motion, dumped the entire pie into the large trash bin by the wall, the crust crumbling like dry earth, filling splattering against the liner in a sad slump, apple slices sliding down, cinnamon streaking the sides like blood brown. The candle rolled out across the carpet, extinguishing with a hiss, leaving a wax spot melting into the fibers, staining. The room went silent. The only sound, a soft squelch as the pie settled at the bottom. Guests staring wide-eyed, some covering mouths with hands, others shifting uncomfortably in their leather chairs, the air thick with shock, and the lingering scent of wasted apples, turning acrid. The air smelled of wasted cinnamon and betrayal, sharp and cloying, mixing with the garbage from earlier, appetizers, shrimp tails. I stood frozen, my hand still in the position of holding the empty space where the tray had been, fingers curled, empty, looking at Marcus, waiting for him to speak, to defend, to stop this nightmare, to be the son I raised with stories of kindness and standing up for what is right against bullies. He stood at the head of the table, red face, his tie askew, collar unbuttoned, sweat beading on his forehead, dripping, pointed at me with a trembling finger, and yelled, "You ruined everything with your embarrassing antics, your clingy old ways, always showing up with your relics from the past, making us look small town. Everyone is sick of you, always inserting yourself, making scenes with your sad attempts at relevance. Get out now. Get out.
I am telling you, leave before you humiliate us more in front of the investors, the partners, the future. His voice echoed off the glass walls, bouncing back, amplified, raw, cracking at the end like glass. Something inside me did not break. It just stopped. Like a clock whose spring had finally unwound after decades of overwinding, the tension releasing in a single silent snap, the gears grinding to halt forever, ticking no more. The endless giving, the excuses, the hope, the swallowed words, the nights I cried into my pillow, muffling sounds with the fabric, it all ended in that instant with the wet thump of my pie in the trash, the scent of apples turning sour, mixing with the garbage, rotting fishy. I nodded once. A small, almost imperceptible movement. Turned and walked out without a word or backward glance. My steps measured on the carpet, heels I rarely wore, clicking softly like a metronome, counting down. I took my coat from the rack in the foyer. The same wool one I had worn for years, patched at the elbows with matching fabric from an old skirt, sewn by hand, buttoned it, calmly 1, 2, 3. The buttons slipping into place with familiar ease, holes worn, and left the building. The elevator ride down was silent, the mirrored walls reflecting a woman composed, face blank, eyes clear, the doors opening to the lobby where security nodded politely as if nothing had happened, the marble cool under my shoes echoing hollow. Outside, the wind off the lake bit sharp, whipping my scarf ends, stinging my cheeks red, but I barely felt it, the cold matching the clarity inside numb and sharp like fresh snow crunching. On the train home, the red line rumbling south, cars swaying, lights flickering overhead, facts lined up in my mind like blueprints on a drafting table, neat, precise, irrefutable. Each one a beam in the structure of my decision, each annotated with dates and amounts, receipts in my memory, folded. Fact 1. The family heirloom watch Leroy gave me for our 30th anniversary. A delicate gold piece with a mother-of-pearl face and tiny diamonds around the bezel that caught the light like stars on water twinkling. Disappeared from my jewelry box years ago, locked with a key I hid under the loose floorboard, creaking. I searched everywhere, turned the apartment upside down, empty drawers, cried quietly into my pillow at night, wondering if I had lost it on a bus or at the laundromat, spinning. Month later, I saw it on Vanessa's wrist in photos from their Hawaii trip, the sun glinting off it as she laughed on a yacht, glass of champagne in hand, the watch face clear, the band adjusted shorter. When I asked gently over coffee one visit at their house, the steam rising from mugs, she tilted her head, smiled sweetly, said, "Oh, this little thing, I found it at a vintage shop in Wicker Park during a girls' weekend with friends, spa day." Amazing coincidence, right? It looks just like the one you described in stories. The engraving faded now. I knew the lie in her eyes, the way she twisted it slightly, covering the initials, but said nothing, swallowing the hurt like bitter medicine, telling myself it was just a thing, material, not worth family peace, not worth the argument, the divide.
Fact 2. The money. Countless transfers over the years, wire after wire, starting small, then growing for company expansions. When Reed Designs grew from a garage operation with folding tables and extension cords tangled to the loop tower with valet parking and concierge desk for the down payment on their house in Oak Park, with the wraparound porch, herringbone floors, and gourmet kitchen with the island where they hosted brunches for influencers, sipping mimosas, taking selfies, for the down payment on the vacation condo in Florida they rented out on apps. I lived on canned soup and generic bread, skipped my own blood pressure medications to afford theirs, postponed dental work because the deductible was too high, ate rice and beans for weeks from bulk bags, plain. They posted photos from cruises to the Caribbean with infinity pools, ski trips to Aspen with private instructors, safaris in South Africa with guides and tents, luxury, not once inviting me, not even for a weekend at the lake house I still owned on paper, the deed in the file, dusty.
I told myself it was fine, as long as they were happy, as long as the grandchildren thrived, sent cards on birthdays with drawings, crayons. Sack 3. The slow, meticulous erasure of me from their narrative, layer by layer, careful as demolition, controlled. Family photos in the company lobby once included me standing proudly beside Marcus at the first office opening, ribbon cutting, smiling in my best suit, navy, now cropped or replaced with stock images of diverse teams, smiling artificially posed in studios. Marcus stopped calling me mom in meetings or in front of clients using Mrs. Reed formally, with a nod like I was a distant aunt or employee. Quarterly. At holiday dinners, I was seated at the kids' table with plastic plates and juice boxes, if at all, while they discussed stock options and market trends at the adult one, with wine pairings, sommeliers pouring. My freelance contributions to their projects, early designs that won bids for green buildings with passive cooling systems, uncredited, buried in files marked team effort, collective input. It was like being erased panel by panel from the building I helped design, layer by layer, until only a ghost remained in the margins, footnotes, small print. The train jolted over switches, the lights of passing neighborhoods flickering through the windows, graffiti on walls, ads for lawyers and loans. Payday. I watched my reflection in the window, a tired woman in a simple coat, trailing a long train of one-sided love, unspoken resentments, quiet sacrifices, piled high. That night, back in the apartment, the key turning in the lock with a familiar scrape, the door sticking slightly from swelling, I slept deeply for the first time in decades. No tossing, no anxious dreams of what if or if only. The mattress cradling me like forgiveness, the sheets clean from the laundromat, folded with care, hospital corners. The apartment was quiet, the radiator ticking softly cooling, the distant hum of traffic, a lullaby, sirens far away, fading into night. Morning light woke me streaming through the curtains with a clarity I had forgotten, pure and golden, dust motes dancing in beams like fairies. I rose without ache, the arthritis quiet for once, perhaps from the rest, washed my face in cold water, the mirror showing eyes bright with purpose, no bags, no shadows, clear. Brewed coffee in my old percolator, the aroma rich and grounding, steam curling up like possibilities, filling the small space with warmth, inviting. My movements were unhurried, but filled with a new rhythm, deliberate like laying out tolls on a site. I went to the closet, pulled out the dusty file box from the top shelf, the one labeled important, in Leroy's faded handwriting, the string tied tight with the bow he taught me on our anniversary. Double knot. Inside, marriage certificate with our young signatures in blue ink fading, birth certificates from Marcus with his tiny footprint eked. Perfect. Insurance papers from the accident, detailed and grim, the police report folded, corners torn, and at the bottom, the original company incorporation documents, yellowed but intact, folded carefully in acid-free paper I added later, protective. The stock certificate, 80% in my name still, because in my caution as a new widow, scared of the world, losing everything to bad decisions, I had never fully transferred it, holding back a majority stake just in case, though I never imagined the case would come. The paper crisp, the seal embossed gold, memories flooded back, vivid as fresh ink on vellum, the smell of the lawyer office coffee, stale donuts. At 45, the firm offered me partnership, my own studio in New York, high-profile projects with developers who built icons like the new Hudson Yards towers, gleaming, a salary that could have changed everything. Travel perks, a life of creation, lectures at universities, keynotes to students. Marcus was struggling in college, partying, skipping classes, at risk of flunking out. His calls home desperate for money, for advice, for me to fly out and fix it, clean up. I saw his lost expression in my mind, thought of the family home in Hyde Park, the stability he needed, the oak tree where he climbed as a child, scraping knees, Band-Aids, hugs. I turned it down in the partner's office, wood-paneled, leather chairs creaking, saying thank you, but I have a son who needs me here in Chicago. Family first, always, no regrets. Then I stayed, poured my talent into his fledgling company, advising on designs, late nights redrawing his sketches on napkins with corrections in red pen, connecting him with my old contacts, suppliers, contractors who owed me favors from past projects, lunches. Now that company funded their luxury SUVs, leased BMWs, private schools with ivy-covered campuses, gala fundraisers with silent auctions, paddles raised. I picked up the phone, the landline with the coil cord that tangled around my finger when I paced, dialed the broker I knew from the old days, Jonathan Harlan, Mr. Harlan younger brother, who handled investments for the firm retirees, still sent Christmas cards with family photos, grandkids. Evelyn, he said warmly, surprise in his voice, it has been ages. How are you holding up with everything? The rumors. List all my shares for immediate sale, I said, my voice steady, surprising even me. No quiver, no doubt, clear as a line on paper, straight, true. The market is high for design firms with urban portfolios, sustainable creds, green certifications, lead act, fast, find the best buyer, discreetly, no leaks to the press or insiders. He paused, pulling up records on his end, the keyboard clicking rapidly, then confirmed the holdings, intact, majority control, untouched, no dilutions. By afternoon, offers poured in, emails pinging from my inbox, competitors eager for redesigns, portfolio, client list, patents on sustainable materials I had developed years ago in my freelance days, green roofs that filter water, recycle gray systems, innovative. I signed electronically from my ancient laptop, the one Marcus had replaced for me with a shiny new one, but I kept this for sentimental reasons. The deal closing in record time, a sum with so many commas it blurred the screen, millions that represented deferred dreams, vacations skipped, birthdays alone, medical bills paid late, interest accruing.
Days passed in a quiet routine I had not known since before Marcus was born, when Leroy and I would wake to birdsong in the old house, chirping in the oak robins and plan our day over coffee on the porch, rocking chairs creaking in unison. I did gentle yoga from a library book borrowed years ago, poses that stretched out the knots in my back and soul, holding downward dog until my arms shook. Trembling walk to the lakefront path, watching gulls wheel over the water, their cries sharp and free, joggers passing with nods, cyclists ringing bells. Ding! Bought fresh berries from the market under the viaduct, real butter, cream instead of margarine, splurging on small joys like ripe peaches, juice running down my chin, sticky sweet licking fingers. The phone on the side table rang endlessly, Marcus leaving voicemails that started apologetic. "Mom, please call. I did not mean it." The words then turned angry. "How could you do this to us, to your grandkids?" Vanessa's shrill demands. "What if this about shares? We need to talk now." Unknown numbers from lawyers retained, big firms with downtown addresses. I let it ring, the machine filling with messages of increasing desperation, pleas for meetings, explanations, threats of family intervention, court injunctions, restraining orders. They expected me to call back, apologize, beg forgiveness, as I always had after every slight, every overlooked birthday, every time I was pushed aside to the corner like furniture. Bake another pie, show up with gifts, smooth it over with my endless patience, my doormat heart, soft, worn. But the pattern was broken, the cycle ended, the wire cut clean, sharp. I knitted a scarf, soft wool and shades of blue and gray, bought on sale at the yarn shop during a senior discount day, row by row, the needles clicking rhythmically, a meditation, the yarn softening in my hands, colors blending like sky and sea. I read books I had meant to for years, novels about women who sailed alone, explored mountains, built empires from scratch, the pages turning like doors opening to new rooms, light flooding in, bright. Outwardly, my life looked the same apartment, the same bus rides to the grocery with reusable bags, mended with safety pins. Inside, everything had shifted, reborn like a building after renovation, walls knocked down, light pouring in, windows wide. I was no longer an extension of their success, a silent partner in the shadows, but Evelyn Reed,
Architect, mother, widow, woman with her own blueprint, her own foundation poured solid, no cracks, no settling. Then they showed up unannounced, as I knew they would, the predictability of their desperation like a faulty design repeating errors. I heard the key in the lock, the spare one they still had from when they stored extra furniture here during a renovation, the tumblers clicking familiarly like old habits dying hard, stubborn. The door burst open without a knock, slamming against the wall, knocking a picture frame crooked, the glass cracking slightly. Leroy and I on our wedding day, smiling, young. Vanessa stormed in first, her face blotchy with anger and lack of sleep, mascara smudged, eyes puffy from crying or rage, heels clicking sharply on the linoleum, purse swinging like a weapon, designer bag now scuffed at the corners, leather peeling. "Have you gone completely mad?" she shrieked, waving her phone, screen cracked from what looked like a drop in rage. Texts open, unread. "Selling the company behind our backs like a thief in the night. Sneaky. You will leave us ruined, homeless on the street with 2 kids to feed, clothe, school uniforms, buy supplies. How could you be so selfish, so cruel after all we have done for you, the life we let you be part of, the scraps?" Marcus followed, pale, his suit rumpled from nights of worry, eyes red-rimmed, pleading, tie loosened, shirt untucked, stains. "Mom, what happened at the party?" "It was just the heat of the moment, the stress of the client deadline, the pressure building. Vanessa got carried away with the cake thing. I am sorry, okay? I should have stopped it, said something, defended you, stood up. But this is our legacy, our home, our children, future, everything we built together from nothing, your nothing, my sweat. Where will we go? What will we tell the kids? Lila crying about her dance recital costumes torn, Jonah about his science fair project supplies, no money." I sat in my armchair knitting, undisturbed, the scarf growing longer, stitch by stitch, the yarn pooling in my lap, soft, warm, looked up calmly, my eyes meeting theirs without the old warmth, the pleading, the give an inch. "This is my company," I said quietly but firmly, the words landing like cornerstones in fresh concrete, solid, unmovable. "You lived off it for free for 15 years, never paid dividends, never shared profits, never even a thank you card or a visit without asking for more money, repairs, expansions. I funded every expansion, every lease, every bonus, every trip, every whim, every crisis. But I am your mother," he stammered, falling back on the old card, the one that always worked, voice cracking like when he was 10 and broke the window with a baseball. Tears then. I quoted his words from the party, slowly, deliberately, savoring the echo. "Everyone is sick of you and your old ways. You told me to get out in front of 30 people, pointed and yelled like I was a stranger, a burden, unwanted. I am granting your wish, fully, completely, without reservation or guilt or second thoughts, no takebacks. The sale is done. Finalized this morning with wire transfer confirmed bank statement. You have 30 days to vacate the office, hand over files, client contacts, passwords, servers, keys, and find new paths on your own merit, your own effort, no safety net." Vanessa lunged forward as if to grab the knitting from my hands, yank away the symbol of my peace, my creation, my time reclaimed, but stopped short, seeing my eyes steady, unflinching like steel beams in a storm, wind howling outside, rattling windows. Marcus sank onto the couch, head in hands, shoulders shaking, sobs muffling to his palms, wet. "You cannot do this," he whispered. "It is betrayal of blood, of everything we are." "Watch me," I thought, but said nothing more, letting the silence speak volumes, the clock on the wall ticking loudly, each second a hammer nail. They argued for an hour, voices rising, falling, pleading with stories of the kids' college funds already spent on tutors, private, the mortgage 3 months behind, late notices piling, the reputation in tatters, clients calling confused, then threatening to sue, to go to the media with tales of elder abuse, manipulation, dementia, test doctors. But Jonathan had made it ironclad, the original documents airtight, my signature the only one that mattered, notarized and filed, witnesses long retired. They left eventually, the door slamming, echoes fading down the hall, footsteps heavy with defeat, the picture frame still crooked, glass spider-webbed cracks spreading. I unplugged the phone that night, the cord pulling free with a soft pop. No more interruptions, no more voices pulling at the threads of my resolve. The silence, golden, pure, enveloping. The fallout came in waves, heard through old friends, the architecture grapevine, neighborhood gossip, church bulletins, prayer chains, and even the local news business section with headlines about acquisitions, mergers, market shifts, stock ticks. The rival firm, Apex Architects, absorbed Reed Designs in a splashy announcement press conference with champagne flutes and renderings on easels, laying off half the staff to streamline costs. Redundancy emails sent, including Marcus, who had no defined role in the new structure, no leverage, no golden parachute. Severance? Minimal. 2 weeks. He scrambled for consultant gigs, cold calling old clients from a Starbucks Wi-Fi free, but without the company name backing, doors closed. Politely or not at all. Emails unanswered, voicemails full, deleted. Vanessa, who had quit her graphic design job years ago to manage the home's social calendar, charity boards with luncheons, silent auctions, hunted for entry-level positions, her resume gap a glaring hole, interviews ending with, "Thanks, but no. We went with someone more current, experienced, fresh." Their Oak Park house with the pool, chlorine-scented, the gourmet kitchen appliances, unused, the home theater with recliners and surround sound, dusty, went into foreclosure. Signs posted on the lawn, red and white, open houses with strangers walking through, pointing at flaws, peeling paint. Neighbors whispered as moving trucks came, loaded with boxes labeled fragile in marker. They downsized to a cramped 2-bedroom apartment in Cicero, above a laundromat, the smell of detergent wafting up, dryers thumping below. Arguments echoing through thin walls late into the night, voices carrying to neighbors who peeked to curtains, concerned. Marcus took night shifts at a warehouse in the suburbs, stocking shelves for a big box store, his back aching from lifting boxes heavy, his hands calloused once more, uniform khaki, name tag crooked. Vanessa waited tables at a diner off the Eisenhower, her designer clothes swapped for polyester uniforms, stained. Tips meager, her feet swollen by the end of shifts, counting quarters for bus fare home, tired. No more Napa, no more private schools for Lila and Jonah, who now attended public ones with larger classes, secondhand books, metal detectors, lockers slammed. Adjusting with confusion and tears, Lila quitting dance after the studio fees too high. Jonah selling his drone for lunch money, traded. Mr. Harlan called once from his retirement in Florida, chuckling sadly over the line, his voice crackly with static, ocean in background. They look like ghosts, Evelyn at the grocery the other day, Marcus with a warehouse badge scanning items, beeping slow, Vanessa counting pennies at the self-checkout, kids with generic cereal boxes, plain. The kids asked about grandma in the cereal aisle, looking lost, small. I listened without comment, feeling neither satisfaction nor pity, only the inevitability of consequences, like a building settling on weak foundation, cracks spreading slow, then sudden collapse. With the money deposited, a weight substantial and freeing, into an account I opened at a new bank with better rates, no fees. I first fixed my hearing at a specialist on Michigan Avenue, the clinic all white and serene, audiologists kind with soft voices, explaining top-of-the-line digital aids almost invisible, custom-fitted with apps for adjustments, volume. When I turned them on outside the clinic, stepping onto the busy avenue, the world exploded in sound. The rustle of leaves underfoot in the planter boxes, autumn, the distant honk of taxis negotiating traffic, impatient, the chirp of sparrows in the trees overhead, flitting, the faint hum of the city alive, its pulse in every vibration. Conversations clear for the first time in years. No more nodding, guessing, lip reading. I stood on the sidewalk, tears streaming down my cheeks, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming return of details I had lost for years. The laughter of children playing, the whisper of wind in flags. Then I bought the coat, a vibrant red trench from a boutique on Oak Street, impractical for stains or rain, but joyful, wrapping me in color like a flag of rebirth, the fabric swishing with every step,
The clerk wrapping it in tissue, complimenting the color on me, matches your spirit. I walked the magnificent mile, feeling eyes turn not with pity, but admiration. An older woman striding with purpose, scarf fluttering like a banner, victory. Before leaving the city for good, I enrolled in an architecture refresher course at the community college, evenings under fluorescent lights, humming with younger students eager, notebooks open, sketching buildings again, feeling the pencil flow across paper smooth, ideas for sustainable homes with solar panels, community centers with green roofs, structures that served people, not just egos, but healed communities with gathering spaces, benches under trees, shade. The instructor, a young woman named Sophia with a ponytail and passion, praised my lines, said I had an eye honed by experience, a portfolio that could teach the class, stories of real builds, failures, and triumphs, lessons. I smiled thinking of the skyscrapers I had birthed, the lives they sheltered, the awards gathering dust, now pulled out, polished, framed. I volunteered at a nonprofit designing affordable housing for single mothers, veterans, displaced. My expertise finally for those who needed it most. Blueprints that turned into homes with playgrounds, gardens, porches for rocking chairs, evening talks, neighbors. The trip to the Grand Canyon was next, something Leroy and I had planned for retirement, saving pennies in a jar labeled Adventure on the kitchen shelf. The coins always diverted elsewhere, tutus, car repairs, weddings, emergencies, birthdays, gifts, small. Now I booked first class on the train, the Southwest Chief rumbling west through Illinois plains, Iowa cornfields, endless, waving gold, Colorado mountains with snowcaps, gleaming sun, and Arizona deserts, the scenery changing like pages in a book, towns flashing by, diners, silos, barns. At the rim, I stood, wind whipping my new scarf ends, flying the vast chasm stretching red and orange, layered like time itself, eroded by wind and water, revealing history in every stratum, fossils in the rock, ancient seas, shells. I opened my sketchbook, colored pencils ready, sharp, drew the curves, the shadows, the play of light on stone buttes and mesas, inspiring forms for future projects, eco-lodges perhaps with viewing platforms cantilevered. Fellow travelers nodded respectfully, an older woman alone but radiant, sharing stories around the lodge fire in the evening, cocoa in hand, steam, stars above like diamonds scattered, endless. I hiked the Bright Angel Trail partway, switchbacks down, dust rising red, my new hearing aids catching the crunch of gravel under boots, steady, the call of canyon wrens, melodic, the whisper of wind through pines, rustling, the echo of my own breath, steady, strong. At the bottom, near the river, I sat on a rock, smooth, dipping my fingers in the cold Colorado, feeling connected to something ancient, powerful. The water rushing eternal, carving stone, patient. Back in Chicago, I bought a small condo overlooking the lake, not lavish, but with a balcony for morning coffee and evening sunsets, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the water like a living painting, changing with weather, storms, lightning, calm, mirror. I furnished it with pieces I chose, a drafting table by the window flooded with light, natural, plants trailing green from shelves, ivy, bookshelves filled with architecture tomes, novels, travel guides, poetry, leather-bound, a kitchen with gadgets I wanted, a stand mixer for pies, baked for pleasure, a coffee maker that ground beans fresh, aroma waking me gently. I hosted small gatherings, neighbors from the building, old colleagues who found me through the grapevine. We shared wine, red and white, stories, laughter, filling the space, pies cooling on the counter, steam rising, inviting. I baked apple pies, not for obligation, but joy, sharing slices warm with vanilla ice cream melting, the scent drawing people in, conversations flowing late into night. I traveled more. A weekend in Door County, cherries picking, lighthouses climbing. A week in New Orleans, jazz, trumpets, beignets powdered, sketching streetcars clanging. A month in Italy,
Hills rolling, pasta fresh, drawing, cathedrals, domes. I started a small consulting firm from home, taking projects that inspired, pro bono for nonprofits, community, paid for corporations that valued experience, wisdom. I mentored young architects at the college, Sophia, students eager, listening to my tales. Months later now, I stand on my balcony, the city lights twinkling below like stars fall into earth, like Michigan, a dark expanse under the moon, waves lapping gently audible with my new ears, rhythmic, the wind carrying salt and possibility, fresh. The scarf is finished, wrapped around my neck, soft and warm, a creation all mine.
Stitches even proud tight. I sketch on a pad, ideas for a community art center, pro bono walls for murals, vibrant gardens for sculpture, spaces for healing therapy. No anger remains, no bitterness, no chains of what was. Only a deep peace like the canyon. Quiet, profound, vast, eternal, timeless. For decades, I built their world, brick by brick, blueprint by blueprint, at the cost of mine drafting their success, while mine gathered dust in files forgotten, yellowed, brittled. They threw it away like that pie crust, crumbling, filling wasted in the trash, scent lingering, then gone with the lid closed. But from the ruins, I did not rebuild the old structure. Flawed and leaning, supports rotten, beams sagging, collapse imminent. I walked away, designed anew, lines clean and strong, foundations solid, all for me, my name on the plans, the cornerstone, the capstone, the entire edifice. The guests at the party gasped the next morning when the sale news broke across business pages, social media, television, trending viral. Reed empire gone overnight. Marcus' life unraveled just as he had wished. Me out, pointed and yelled, banished forever, no return. I am free, sketching my own horizons, vast as the sky, endless as the lake, eternal as the river, flowing, carving new paths.